The busy streets of 18th century London. In the heart of London, during the 18th century, there was a young man named Samuel, who worked as an apprentice for a renowned clockmaker, Mr. Thomas Price. The city bustled with life, and the streets were filled with people rushing from one place to another, each trying to make the most of their busy days. Samuel, however, had a different view on time than most people. He was fascinated by clocks, not just because of their intricate designs, but because of how they represented something deeper, the value of every second. One afternoon, as Samuel worked diligently on a pocket watch, Mr. Price sat him down. The old clockmaker had lived through many decades, and his wisdom was respected by all. "Samuel," he began, "time is not simply something to be measured. It's the most precious thing we have. We don't own it, we borrow it, and once it's gone forever." Samuel, puzzled, asked, "But sir, how do we ensure that time is well spent?" Mr. Price smiled. "You can't make more time, Samuel, but you can spend it wisely. Every clock I make is a reminder of the moments we cannot reclaim. Time waits for no man, but those who respect it can do great things." One fateful day in the year 1666, London was struck by the Great Fire. Flames ravaged the city, consuming homes, businesses, and lives. Samuel was only a young boy at the time, but the event had a profound impact on him. He saw the chaos, the desperation, and the realization that, in the midst of all that destruction, many people had not spent their time in ways they would have hoped. As the fire spread, Samuel watched in horror as clocks, watches, and precious heirlooms melted away, symbols of lost time. It was then that Samuel understood what Mr. Price had meant. Time was not just about the hours spent in work or leisure. It was about making every moment meaningful, because you never knew when a day could come to an end, just like the flames that had consumed the city. After the fire, as London began to rebuild, Samuel took to heart the lessons he had learned from the fire and from Mr. Price. He became determined not only to make beautiful clocks, but to make them with purpose. He poured every ounce of his time into understanding the mechanics of time itself, working tirelessly to create timepieces that could last for generations. He designed a clock for the City Hall, one that would symbolize the rebuilding of London. The clock's face was not just an elegant display of numbers. It was etched with the Latin phrase tempus fugit, time flies. It was meant to remind the people of London that while time may be fleeting, what they did with it mattered. Years later, Samuel had become one of the most skilled clockmakers in London. His fame spread far and wide, and people from all over the world came to him for his work. His clocks didn't just tell time, they told a story. He became so dedicated to his craft that he spent decades perfecting a new kind of clock, one that could be set to Greenwich Mean Time, a revolutionary advancement that would change the way people around the world kept track of time. Samuel's work became the foundation for global navigation, allowing sailors to know their exact longitude at sea. This invention, born from his obsession with the value of time, was instrumental in making the world smaller and more connected. As Samuel grew old, he reflected on the life he had lived. He never married, never had children of his own. But in the quiet moments, as he sat in his workshop surrounded by clocks and watches, he knew he had done something meaningful with the time he had. His creations had helped people in ways he never could have imagined when he was an apprentice. He remembered Mr. Price's words, "We borrow time." Samuel had spent his borrowed time wisely, creating something that would last beyond his own years. On his deathbed, Samuel's last words were simple but profound. "May the time we spend be the legacy we leave." After Samuel passed, his clocks became treasures. People remembered the man who had made time itself so valuable. And even today, in the halls of museums and the ticking of old clocks, his legacy lives on, reminding us that time is fleeting and how we spend it is what truly matters.